Jason Momoa says his Conan movie was betrayed by the producers or that his movie was taken away and turned into a bad movie. But is this just something you say when your movie just flops completely? Maybe it was just doomed from the very get-go. Let's talk about it. Hello and welcome to World of Conan, to all you barbarians out there. Today we're talking about Jason Momoa and his interview with, I think it was GQ. It actually happened last August. Still, I'd like to just talk about it a bit. Other newslets also wrote articles about it, as we can see on the screen. So basically Jason Momoa says that slams his movie Conan the Barbarian as a big pile of you know what. So let's just read about it and then I'll give my few cents and I'll ask you guys what you think about this whole movie, this whole debacle, and the question, was it doomed from the very get-go, or was there a possibility it could be good? I'll tell you my thoughts about it because I definitely have strong opinions on that. Anyway, let's read on. Don't expect Jason Momoa to participate in future anniversary celebrations of his role in Conan the Barbarian. Speaking to British GQ for a profile piece, Momoa slammed the 2011 film, which he starred in as the sword-swinging character of legend in a remake of the film that featured Arnold Schwarzenegger in 1982. I've been a part of a lot of things that really sucked, and movies where it's out of your hands, Momoa told the British GQ. Conan was one of them. It's one of the best experiences I had, and it was taken over and turned into a big pile of... The film did have a somewhat rocky beginning. The film was stalled at Warner Bros. Before Lionsgate bought the rights. Brett Ratner was prematurely announced as director, which would have been a lot better because he's a much better director. Not to say that he's would be my choice, so he's like a great director, but he's a better director. Before German filmmaker Markus Nispel was enlisted in June 2009, Momoa was cast in January 2010. Now, I've been very vocal about this. Markus Nispel was the absolute worst decision ever, and I cannot believe what on earth were they thinking to helm this. What was it, $90 million picture? Having a guy like Markus Nispel, whose claim to fame are Friday the 13th, or reboot, Texas Chainsaw Massacre reboot, and then the Viking movie, I forget what its name is. Like, those are his three best movies, if I remember correctly. No, that's not a whole lot, and that's not a good resume to make this kind of movie, in my opinion. Now, granted, if it wasn't another guy who had directed those kind of movies, horror movies, I wouldn't have given that much thought. But because I've seen almost all of Nispel's movies, and they haven't gotten better in that sense, I know his style. And it's very MTV style, and I know, at least for me, what I see the capabilities, they just are not up to snuff, and that's what happened in this movie of 2011. So incredibly bad decision to hire this guy. I don't know what they were thinking. I guess they just picked whoever was available, maybe, I don't know, but his career has completely gone away with after this movie. He's made some really low budget B movie, I think, some kind of horror film, but he's off these bigger movies, which he was making. Well, his claim to fame were the remakes, and those, at least the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, it didn't hold a candle to the original, so it wasn't that good at all. I've never watching it again, at least. I thought it was cringy. The Friday the 13th reboot is a better one, but it's a really basic movie. Nothing special in my opinion. And the Viking movie has nice aesthetics, but there's pretty stupid decisions in that movie and idiotic plot. Well, at least from what I remember, it was a bit like. But that might be his maybe best movie. But anyway, moving on. The film had a $90 million budget, was released in 3D. It was savaged by critics and sunk like rock, getting a 25% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Conan grossed 48 million of worldwide, a complete disaster of a bomb. It should have at least made like 200 millions to usually break even, or even more, because remember they don't get 100% return in profits from movie theaters. The theaters take their cut. Different countries take different cuts, so it's not 100%. You gotta factor in different things, and of course promotion. Momoa received nicely though. Before Conan's release, he debuted as Dothraki, warlord Khal Drogo. Yeah, it's in Game of Thrones. It's unfortunate it came a bit before, or just about that. Game of Thrones hadn't hit the big time, so it didn't get that press either. But maybe it's good in hindsight. Since then, he's been cast in Aquaman, in DC Comics Extended, which is getting rebooted, so he's probably going off of that as well. And now he's in Dune, which I liked. Thought it was a great film. Now, let's see if there was. This was published in 2020. Is the Jason Momoa sequel happening? No, that's not happening. But I thought it was interesting. Maybe some of you guys didn't know. But there, while on promotional duties for the original film in 2011, Jason Momoa told Collider he was involved in the development of Conan the Barbarian 2 script, though he later revealed he wasn't actually writing it. He didn't say much about what the story for his follow-up would have been, but expressed a desire to include more creatures in the franchise, which budget issues prevented on Conan the Barbarian. Following the failure of Conan the Barbarian, Momoa later opened up about the movie's issues. While he felt he worked hard to bring the character to life, he also felt the movie fell short in other areas, which is likely a reference to its undercooked story. Yeah. Following the box office failure of the 2011 Conan the Barbarian, various efforts have been made to continue the series with spin-offs or reboots. These I didn't know about either. Jimon Honsu spent years developing a movie about Thulsa Doom, the evil sorcerer played by James Earl Jones in the 1982 movie. Now, all fair to Jimon, but he's not the right guy in my opinion, for Thulsa Doom. He's very like a niche kind of guy who plays. He's not versatile like James Earl Jones. I can't see Jimon as with that same presence, command presence, and that Shakespearean quality. I'm very thankful that didn't happen. We would have needed someone different, definitely. So that's good that didn't happen. I mean, if James Earl Jones would have done a spin-off, that would have been great. But you know, that's that window has long gone, unfortunately. And this I didn't know either. While Amber Heard was once linked to Sonja Project. Imagine that, guys. Amber Heard Red Sonja Project. Oh, that would have been bonkers. Oh, been horrible. Just imagine. Now you don't want your Red Sonja to be someone you dislike intensely, and just. No narcissists here. Thank you very much. The most exciting of these was The Legend of Conan, where Arnold Schwarzenegger would have returned for a direct sequel to the original one. And that's one of the unfortunate ones. The King Conan Crown of Iron, as it was once called, that would have been fantastic to cap off the Conans that Arnold did. I would have very much liked that, because it also had Milius returning for it, and but it was torpedoed by, I think, Malmberg and all those other guys that they didn't want, and they don't understand why people would have wanted an Arnold Conan. This entry was likened to a Clint Eastwood's Unforgiven, but the studio ultimately passed on producing, likely due to the failure of several Schwarzenegger's most recent movies. Yeah, I don't know if that would have counted into that, because his Conan, like his Terminator movies, would have maybe brought in, I know you might be thinking the Terminator movies didn't do well, I know, but think of it, those have been made so many times now, so it's diluted, but Conan hasn't been made. Schwarzenegger hasn't returned to Conan many times, so there's a difference there. And I think that would have been epic with Milius returning, and it would have been a fantastic send-off, I think. Now, I know a lot of, well, some Conan fans dislike the 1982 movie, but you gotta kind of look at it as like Elseworld Conan story. It's not the Conan character of Howard. It is different, obviously, but it is still an incredible movie, fantastic movie, and it gets everything else right, except maybe the Conan character itself is not on point with Howard's, and that's why I understand why some people wouldn't like the movie, because they want a Howard's Conan. I understand. I also want, absolutely. But then again, I do think the 1982 movie is incredible and fantastic, one of the greatest movies of all time. And it, though it bears the name Conan, I just kind of think of it as like an Elseworld Conan story, kind of like an mishmash of Carl and Conan together. That's just me, but I understand those who don't, because it's not those who don't like it because it's not Howard's Conan. That's understandable. So it just goes on to Conan the Barbarian 2 won't happen, and now I would say it's fantastic that this failed. While this 2011 Conan movie gets, we could argue it gets right, the Conans, as you can see there, the look department, it gets right Conan. It gets that right. It's just that everything else it gets wrong. So while the 1982 movie gets everything else right, but it gets Conan a bit wrong. You see, that's why it was a phenomenal success, and this was not. Because while the Conan might behave like Conan in the 2011 one, or at least more like and look more like Howard's Conan, if everything else around it fails, then it fails, because it didn't have the story, the script, the director, the music, and aesthetics, like, I guess okayish, but still maybe not that unique. And here was a guy's comment. I thought that was great. We just go through it, talk about it a bit. Simply put, the people in charge of making the movie had only a very basic knowledge of the character and the world, and that's the one thing. If you listen to the interview with Malmberg, of where you hear about Markus Nispel and those guys, they were looking at the comic books, probably the newer ones. Dark Horse, I mean, those are fantastic, and maybe Marvel. No, not Marvel. Marvel hasn't come out yet. But anyway, the Dark Horse ones, and I get those are fantastic and it's great, but still, they don't have the story as, like, they don't have all the description as was written by Howard, the story. So I mean, that should be the first entry point to actually read the stories, and from there then get the aesthetics, first from the story and then from the comic books. But this seemed like they just, like this guy says, a cursory glance and taking more from the awesome comic books and getting that fantastic looking comic shots, like all those great visuals, but you're missing the point a bit there. Also the point that they didn't make from one of Howard's stories, which are fantastic. Why not choose to adapt a fantastic Howard story, and instead you go with some very boring pastiche story that doesn't hold a candle to any of the Howard stories? This is one of the greatest mysteries. Why on earth would you do that? Maybe because you haven't read those Howard stories. You didn't bother to. You just took some comic books and we're gonna make a great movie inside this comic book world and make it like that, and just put on some story. It's gonna be fantastic and it's gonna sell. But maybe those stories had a little more depth than your basic pastiche stories, because that's what the movie felt like. Specifically the writers and the 19 producers. By comparison, the original Conan the Barbarian only had 6 producers, and The Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring, a huge Hollywood production with all trimmings, had only 12. Imagine, 19 producers. It's no wonder anything got done and it all got crazy and went nuts. That's 19 people all arguing over how to best appeal to the widest audience, thus make the most money. On top of that, the director is best known for his work, like I said already, in music videos, MTV style, and the Friday the 13th reboot, which this guy liked, and I thought it was an okay movie. However, the point is that these people took Conan for just a throwaway sword and sorcerer adventure. The movie watches like someone had read the cliff notes of Robert E. Howard's stories and then described them to the writers. Exactly. They had none of the elements that made a good Conan story: sex, violence, sorcery, the dynamic vitality of the titular character. Sorry, these are what is best in life. For me, it's more like the story, the themes, like in the 1982 movie, the atmosphere, the music, the locations, the feelings, but the story, the mythology, the themes, the father, son, the store, the willpower of flesh, all these things are things that elevate that movie over something like Conan the Destroyer or this 2011 that don't have any themes in it. It's just a basic story of some guy going on an adventure somewhere and bringing an artifact or getting an artifact. Like, let's get the themes in. The major plot point of Conan's clan being guardians of a part of magic artifact was ridiculous. Ludicrous. Yeah, exactly. Like, what are we in some fantasy story now? In basic fantasy story, we're some guardian clan guarding some special artifact from evil. Like, come on, this is not what Cimmeria is. This is not what Conan's people are. That's like some guardian magic tribe trope from whatever movies. Like, seen that a lot of times. Completely crap. All the fluffy from Conan's father about fire and ice, ridiculous, ludicrous. What it did for me was that Jason Momoa was perfect to play Conan in his late teens, early 20s. Now, arguably, Jason Momoa is a good choice if you want a bigger name. The only problem I have is that his face is it's a too handsome guy. Conan is a bit more, he's a brutish character, so his face is more brutish, not that really like a handsome face. It's more a, soldier, brute berserker kind of face. It's been hit a lot. So it's like that's actually a good point. It's more like a boxer's face. They could have done the Siege of Venerium. I disagree. Siege of Venerium having a story about taking over a fort. I understand there could be nice dynamics there with the clan, the clans, Cimmeria and stuff like that, but it's maybe not that enthralling as something with a bit more something with more mystery or more magic and artifacts and stuff. Like he says, the Tower of the Elephant, for example, with that more of that stuff, the sword and sorcery part. Venarium would have been more just the sword part, or the God in the Bowl. Now that would have been a horrible choice. That's one of my least favorite story of Howard's. I think it's a really bad. It's not a story that I enjoy at all. I would say it's probably my least favorite story of his. It's just that Conan comes upon a body and the soldiers come upon him, and so they question him, and then he questions them, and then you just go from logical conclusion that it's not that guy who killed that guy. Maybe it's that guy, it's not that guy, okay, it's that guy. Okay, so it was probably that guy, okay, there's a monster there, okay, killed it, okay. story done. I just the only thing, well, there was a nice lore part about Seth, the serpent god, and the man serpents. That's the only thing I liked about that. But otherwise, the story was not good, boring, and it was also, I think, rejected. I think because it wasn't published during Howard's life. It was published later on, so that would have been a horrible story. Instead, pick Red Nails, or something else. Beyond the Black River could be good. And there's others. Like this guy goes to say, instead they went with an old con. Why not do Black Holes? That would have been very, very, very expensive. Queen of the Black Coast also expensive because it is a pirate movie essentially. Those are very expensive. If they can turn The Hobbit into 3 movies, they could turn those stories into at least 90-minute future worth watching. And once again, it's not a proven franchise. It's a bit known. It's a known name, but it's not. It doesn't have a proven franchise in that it only has one movie basically making a lot of money. The first 1982 movie could have taken a story with similar elements, combined them into one with some artistic liberties, and still been just fine. Unless they could have renamed the main character in the movie and been just fine. That's true, but it would have been still not that good of a movie. Just a very basic movie that would have done poorly. Perfectly fine throwaway summer popcorn flick. 10 to 20 years from now on, we watched The Semicolon, The Sword of Sorcerer's Watch. Maybe not a cult classic, but certainly a nostalgic camp flick. So, what would we have learned from all of this? Or what have we learned from reading all this? I think we should be thankful that this movie didn't take off. Because from what I know about this movie, reading these things, listening to the interviews and stuff like that, this was dead on arrival because very bad decisions by producers, very bad decisions of the director they hired, very bad decisions of the writers they hired. I didn't even go through those, but the writers have very bad track records, very bad, all flops. Unbelievable choices here. The only thing they got right basically is Momoa. If you think he is quite close in the looks department to Conan. Music, nothing special. Aesthetics, nothing special. And like we said, the direction, nothing special. So I think it was better that this didn't take off. It got, well, basically was a huge flop because they just didn't understand what made the 1982 movie so good. So it didn't deserve to go on because we would not. I imagine the next one would have been just some ridiculous story, not following the original stories. Because I looked at the interviews with Momoa and he doesn't seem like a fan either. He says he's a fan, he's read some of the comic books, but I don't think he's read the stories. He hasn't even seen the 1982 movie, and he claimed that this movie is a better movie than the 1982 movie, which he hadn't seen. So, ridiculous bravado on his part. Anyone with a bit of a sense understands that this movie, the 2011 movie, is much worse in all regards to the 1982 movie by John Milius. There's no question about it. Only people who don't like older movies because they're hokey or something like that make those kinds of claims, but they don't understand. They have some kind of issues with productions. They can't get through some issues like that, and I just feel sorry for those kind of people who can't watch any movies before 2000. But anyway, so yeah, I'm glad this didn't happen, didn't go through, because all these issues, that they're just fundamentally so bad. So the essence is already soiled here. So it wouldn't have gotten better. It would have just gotten more prestige stories with the same bland direction bland music and bland acting, it wouldn't be good. But guys, what are your thoughts? What do you think about the 2011 movie? Do you think like me on this issue? Like it's a watchable movie, but you know, it's not something I put on. Do you like the movie? Do you think it's better than 1982 movie? Please then tell me why you think it's better and what are the reasons. This can't be the dialogue. Do you think this was a good decision that this didn't take off? Obviously, we would want to like a good Conan content take off, but that's the point. This is not good Conan content. Well, yeah, just tell me your thoughts in the comments below. What's your take on all this? Would you wanted Conan 2 to this movie? Or are you glad like me that this stopped right here? So, do I think the Jason Momoa movie was betrayed, like he said? I think it was betrayed already from the start for basically all of us Conan fans. Was it taken over by the producers and made worse? Probably. That happens quite a lot. That's the unfortunate thing. But I think this movie was betrayed by lack of vision, by hiring people who lacked vision, actual knowledge of Howard's work, and actually wanting to be faithful to his work and bring great stories to the screen from his work. Because, as any of you and me and all Conan fans know, there's some fantastic gems there. And that's why it has been so influential all over the world, and that's why people know about Conan, because of Howard's fantastic work. Then why not bring that to the screen? So it was betrayed already from the start, so it's good this didn't get made. And regarding Momoa's development of his second script, who cares? It would have been just more of the same crap. That's what I believe. So let's hope and be thankful that this didn't go further here, but that we might get in the future now a much better choice, a much truer vision and closer vision to Howard's vision of the Hyborian world, Hyborian age, Conan the Barbarian. So hopefully that happens. The next one up is the Netflix TV series, and we hopefully it's going to be close to the vision of Howard. You can just wait and see what happens, but hopefully it will be. It is by Malmberg and all these, and they say they want to hold close to Howard's vision, but the movie didn't really show the good side of that promise. I mean, Malmberg did say that the producers, got involved, and it became what it became. So maybe there's truth to that. Maybe this is more contained. But anyway, that's my thoughts on all of this debacle. So I'll see you guys on the next video. Hail Conan.